Tonight, the Trudeau Liberals melt down and a government in waiting. From Montreal, this is Night Talk, episode 14. I'm Gary MacDonald. Eddie is away tonight, but he's already been sending me texts and heckling me along the way. Anyway, let's get started. What a week for political drama. It started very early Monday morning with the resignation of Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pondering his future now as federal Liberal leader. After that political bombshell on Monday, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, as we said, resigned Monday, hours though before she was to deliver the government's fall economic statement in the House of Commons. Well, in a letter of resignation to the Prime Minister and released moments later on her social media channels, Freeland pulled no punches, saying Trudeau had told her the previous Friday he had lost confidence in her as finance minister and would be replacing her with former Bank of Canada and Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, and he did so in a Zoom call. He said he would shuffle her to a cabinet position without portfolio, handling Canada-US relations. Freeland's bombshell hit as Housing Minister Sean Fraser was announcing his resignation from cabinet and would not be reoffering, I should say, in the next federal election to spend more time with family. Now that amid speculation that he is considering a run for the leadership of the Liberal Party in his home province of Nova Scotia. Meantime, after having his fixer Dominic LeBlanc sworn in as finance minister in late afternoon, Trudeau attended a caucus meeting where he heard a number of calls for his resignation and said he would think about his next step. Then he was off to a big Liberal Christmas party and spoke publicly for the first time since Freeland's resignation earlier in the day.
Thank you all for being here tonight. It's obviously been an eventful day, and it has not been an easy day. I love this country. I really do. I trust Canadians. There is no place I'd rather be than Canada, and it is the absolute privilege of my life to serve as your Prime Minister. Now, Canada is the best country on earth, but it's not perfect. That's why I wake up every single day thinking about how to make this nation work better for all Canadians. That mission to consistently put in the work so that we're living up to our ideals and values, that's at the core of what makes us Liberals. And it's why you show up here, even on the toughest days, as a party. You know that the only thing that ultimately matters is fighting like hell every single day to make life better for Canadians, and that's what you do. So please, enjoy your holidays, recharge by spending some much-needed time with your loved ones, and come back ready to show Canadians we have a serious, positive vision for the future of this great country that is worth fighting for. Thank you, my friends. I look forward to spending time with all of you this evening. Merci beaucoup, mes amis. Bonne soirée.
You have to give the guy credit from one slap on one side of the face to a slap on the other side of the face all day long. And he wades right into the thick of it, and almost you could see there was a bit of edge to his speech as far as his delivery was concerned the other night. However, given the day that he had gone through, he still stood up there and delivered. There are a number of questions coming out of this, and I welcome your comments this evening for sure to help us kind of wade through what's been taking place. The first question that comes to mind is, why did he tell Chrystia Freeland on Friday, the Friday before the Monday she was to deliver the fall economic statement, why did he tell her that she was out as finance minister and that she would be replaced by Mark Carney? And Mark Carney, by the way, according to what I've been hearing and from people with various sources in Ottawa, they're suggesting that Carney had not even been approached to take the finance minister's portfolio prior to Trudeau telling Freeland she was finished. Again, you have to kind of start wondering, like, what was Trudeau thinking? And why would he do it in this manner? Now, it's no secret that he brought Carney on earlier in the year as an economic advisor to the government to short-circuit rumors that were going around that Carney was, in fact, giving very serious consideration to running for the Liberal leadership when Trudeau stepped down or was ousted somehow. So, what better way to stay on top of things? What is it? You keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And so he moved Carney into a position of as an advisor within government. But to do it the way that he did it, it makes no sense. What were you expecting Freeland to do? Just roll over and play dead? Because there is no doubt, no question, that there have been some edginess between Freeland and the Prime Minister over the last number of months, as she was trying to keep spending under control to keep to her commitment of a deficit of $40 billion and no more. And by the time all was said and done, and they finally did table the fall economic statement in the House of Commons late Monday afternoon, but just tabled it with no one presenting it. And the sad truth came out. The rumors were out there over the weekend, but the sad truth came out that the deficit actually stood at $62 billion, $22 billion over Freeland's, as she called it, guardrail amount. The highest deficit in the country's history. Just unbelievable. Now, they are suggesting that there were a number of one-time items, chargebacks, that had to go against that particular bottom line in accounting terms, including some of the recent settlements with First Nations people. And they're up in arms because they feel they're being blamed for the deficit, the increase in the deficit now. But the fact of the matter is, okay, I get it. There are certain times that you have to do these one-time charges against the bottom line. However, still, this whole GST, HST holiday was ill-conceived, and it was not presented in a very, very good manner. And watching back the video of the day that Trudeau and Freeland rolled out that announcement in a small grocery store in small town Ontario, if you watch closely, if you have the opportunity to go back and find that video, watch Freeland's face. She was not very happy about it. So there was some real tension there, and it was building, because you had that, and then you had the ill-fated $250 check for every working Canadian making $150,000 a year or less, which was supposed to go out around the end of March, 1st of April, at an extremely high cost. Again, she was against that, and in the fall economic statement, there's no mention of it at all. But there are other spending issues over the last number of months as well, where she was trying to keep a rein on things as a responsible finance minister would, and he had other ideas. Remember, this is the same individual, Justin Trudeau, who back in 2014, 2015 said budgets will balance themselves. It's the same guy. Anyway, so here we are with a record deficit, $62 billion. And a last-minute stand-in finance minister, Dominique LeBlanc, well-respected on both sides of the House by all parties, and has been Justin Trudeau's fixer, and a long-time friend of Justin Trudeau's, has been his fixer whenever there was a portfolio that was in trouble. First thing, he would bring Dominique in to pick up the pieces and clean up the mess. And so now Dominique is wearing the finance hat. He's wearing public safety, intergovernmental affairs. And so far, I have not heard of a replacement for the position of Deputy Prime Minister, which leaves, another question. If somebody, a proper planning procedure would be make sure you've got somebody in as Deputy Prime Minister able to step in case something happens to the Prime Minister. And right now, unless I missed it in the last day or two with all of the hubbub, I don't think we have anyone in place. And if you know of that not being the fact that somebody has been named, by all means, post a comment and let me know, please. And you can join the live chat on YouTube now, and we can post your comments on the screen, or you can leave a comment down below. If you're watching on Facebook, you can just post a regular comment and it will come right into us. On top of all of this, of course, we have our friend south of the border, President-elect Donald Trump. And Trump wasted no time jumping into this latest uproar, political uproar, with a post on his Truth Social indicating, and I can probably bring that up for you if you just bear with me for a minute. Seeing this, I'm flying solo here. Okay, I'll do this, do this. Okay, there's one of Trump's posts on his Truth Social. And his first reaction to Freeland's resignation was, the great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigns or was fired from her position by Governor Justin Trudeau. Trump wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social, using terminology gleaned from his recent jokes about Canada becoming America's 51st state. Quote, her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada, he continued. She will not be missed. Donald Trump was no fan of Chrystia Freeland, and if you recall, in Trump 1.0, she was the lead negotiator in the renegotiation of what was then the North American Free Trade Agreement into the deal that we have today between the U.S., Mexico, and ourselves. And he did not really take kindly to her at all. Let's put up his other Truth Social post here too, so you can have a quick look at that. So now we have Trudeau facing a growing chorus of calls for him to step down. Over the last day or two, more MPs have actually come out in public and said, yes, it's time for him to go. And the sooner the better. Wayne Long from St. John Rothsay has been one of the most vocal, and he started back in the early summer with a couple of others, but he's been one of the most vocal. And I understand today, and I haven't had a chance to have a look at it yet, but I understand today he penned a letter calling on all of the cabinet ministers who have expressed quietly their dissatisfaction with Justin Trudeau to come out and publicly call on Trudeau to step down. There's a whole host of things going on here in the background as far as currents are concerned, and we'll get into a little more discussion on some of those other currents in a few minutes. I want to pick up on the feeding frenzy on Monday on the opposition side of the House. Let me get my notes here. That really did set off, her resignation set off the feeding frenzy. And the initial reaction from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was double-edged, with an appeal to grassroots Liberals.
Because we simply cannot go on like this. And it is up to Jagmeet Singh now to make that realization. Mr. Trudeau is being held in office by one man, Jagmeet Singh. A fifth of Liberal MPs have written a letter for him to resign. His deputy prime minister has walked out on him. His housing minister has quit. That on top of numerous other female ministers who stormed out after his appalling mistreatment and abuse and dishonesty towards them. 80% of Canadians have lost confidence in this prime minister. So why is Jagmeet Singh making the entire country wait for him to get his pension? That is the question today. To patriotic Liberals across the country, my message is this. You supported this government in good faith because you thought it was the right thing for the country. And you are good and decent patriotic people who've been let down by a prime minister and his top advisor, Mr. Carney, who have betrayed Ms. Freeland.
So he asked grassroots Liberals to join with the Conservatives and say goodbye to Justin Trudeau and the current serving members of his government. Again, he also called out NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who also on Monday was out for blood and looking for Trudeau to step.
Right now, Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. I hear it everywhere I go. People cannot find a home that they can afford. They can't buy their groceries. And on top of that, we have Trump threatening tariffs at 25%, which put hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. And instead of focusing on these issues, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are focused on themselves. They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. And for that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
Will you declare no confidence in the Liberal government as soon as possible?
All tools, all options are on the table. People are hurting. People are struggling. And so all options are on the table.
Sorry, just to clarify, you're calling for him to resign, but you are not willing to vote no confidence in his government? How do those two things connect?
All options are on the table.
That's not an answer.
All options.
That's not an answer.
What does this mean for your support with the Liberals, though? How can you say he needs to resign, but then you're not telling us what you're going to do for non-confidence?
Telling you that all options are on the table.
Right.
Mickey.
Fez, will you support the Fez? And also, are you willing to continue to support the Liberals if there is a different leader aside from Trudeau?
Right now, that's not in front of us. There's no votes in front of us, but we will take each vote. And right now, literally, everything's on the table.
Everything is on the table, and he still, even today, was not totally committing to joining with the Conservatives and joining with the Bloc to bring down the Trudeau government. Now, Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet was very direct in his thoughts on that as well on Monday.
Mr. Trudeau's government is over. He must acknowledge that and act accordingly. I believe that the departure of his so important ally, Minister of Finances, Vice First Minister, Prime Minister, is the end of this government. And that at the latest in the beginning of 2025, the Prime Minister should go to the general governor and ask for the dissolution of the parliament in order for Quebecers and Canadians to compose a new parliament that will have the mandate to deal with the real crisis at hand, which is the most important crisis in terms of diplomacy and trade between Canada and the United States in recent history. Somebody needs a mandate, and it goes through a new parliament. Thank you.
So, in question period yesterday, the Conservatives were on the attack. First, they were hitting Trudeau's track record with women in his cabinet.
The honourable member for Peterborough Kawartha.
I'm mad at myself now for having once thought he is an honest and good person when in truth he would so casually lie to the public. That's a direct quote from former Liberal Cabinet Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, who learned the Prime Minister is a performative and fake feminist. Yep. She resigned. It was just a week ago the Prime Minister stood on stage to tell women what a great feminist he is. And then today, we learned the Prime Minister told the first ever female finance minister to do as he says or lose her role. She resigned. Wow. Even the finance minister doesn't have confidence in the Prime Minister. Selena Cesar Chavez, former parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister, felt reduced to a prop for the Prime Minister's image rather than valued for her voice. She resigned. How many women will the Prime Minister throw under the bus before the leader of the NDP pulls his pathetic support for this weak Prime Minister? That's right. Canadians are done. Call an election and get rid of this fake, feminist, narcissistic Prime Minister who is destroying this country and Canadians' lives.
And that was followed up by this exchange during question period.
What a mess. Yesterday was a gong show at the bottom of a dumpster fire, wrapped up in a cluster. The finance minister resigns, the Prime Minister hides all day and then has to beg his MPs not to fire him. But the worst news, buried underneath it all, was a devastating gut punch to Canadian taxpayers. A $62 billion deficit smashing through the already insane $40 billion guardrail. Canada is a serious G7 NATO partner staring down the threat of 25% tariffs. We deserve a strong leader with a new mandate. Why not let Canadians decide by calling a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister of Finance and Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking the Opposition House Leader for his heartfelt congratulations on my new role. I want to tell him, Mr. Speaker, and all Canadians, that our government is very proud of the fall economic statement that we made public yesterday. Mr. Speaker, the fall economic statement speaks to growth in the Canadian economy. It speaks to supporting Canadians with serious affordability challenges. It speaks to a declining debt to GDP ratio, the best in the G7. And Mr. Speaker, we haven't finished supporting Canadians, something the Conservatives aren't interested in doing.
Dominique LeBlanc found a way to get a little bit of humor to try and lighten the atmosphere just a bit, but unfortunately, as time wore on during the question period, that was lost, and really rightly so. Very, very interesting how the opposition approached it in the House yesterday, especially the Conservatives, and the way that they did go on the attack, and in the way that they called out Trudeau's record with women in his cabinet. When you start adding it up, wow. And not only that, but I saw something today where he's down 9 ministers now. And so a lot of people are carrying a lot of extra work, a lot of extra titles, including his fixer, Dominique LeBlanc. Now, we do have a comment coming in, and I'll just put that up here. Here we go. Okay, from Sandy. Hi, Gary. When Trudeau had Freeland, or told Freeland that he was taking her out of finance, believe it backfired. Oh, let's bring that back up. Believe that it backfired on Trudeau when Mark Carney didn't agree as well and became the finance minister. No other choice to bring Dominique in as finance minister, the only one he trusts If Trudeau goes after the new year, it's because of his arrogance. Well, there's no question there, Sandy, and thank you for the comment, there's no question that it's his arrogance and his total ego now that has been driving him that's going to do a couple of things. The first thing is he's going to go out in much the same way that Richard Hatfield in New Brunswick went out when Frank McKenna blew him out after 17 years. And the provincial Conservative Party was decimated. And it took them probably almost 10 years before they were really back on their feet. Hatfield's legacy was tarnished by that very fact, the defeat that the party suffered and the condition that the party was left in and had to build back up over about a decade before it was really a viable alternative once again. And Trudeau is heading in the same direction with the federal Liberals. Unfortunately, the other side of it is we could be going to the polls almost any time between now and the fixed election date in February of this coming year. Really, when you get right down to it, if Trudeau, the polls show the reason why he didn't do it, but we should have had an election this spring, at the very latest early fall, to give a new government a full mandate that overreaches the term of office of Trump 2.0. The longer this drags on, in my opinion, the longer that this drags on, it's weakening our position from a bargaining standpoint with Trump. Trump right now, he's from, I just saw a headline a few minutes ago where he's doing a victory dance on the border proposals that we've put forward, which was one of his big things that he was pushing. So if this continues to drag on, and we are going to be in a much weaker position every day that it goes by, and Trudeau's support from within continues to collapse. He's a wounded, weak leader, and becoming more so every day. And at what cost? It's at the cost of us trying to deal with the man south of the border. And that is just wrong. And that's going to be part of his tarnished legacy once he finally comes to his senses and steps down. But we should have had an election in time to have a new government in place for Trump's inauguration. And unfortunately, that is not going to happen. Which is a shame. It really is a shame. It's now you see the premiers, and remember just 2 weeks ago there was all of this talk about Team Canada, Team Canada. Well, the only Team Canada really we have now in play is the premiers. And 2 or 3 of them are really taking the lead, like Danielle Smith from Alberta and Doug Ford from Ontario. And both of them are in the right-wing category. Danielle Smith is taking a slightly less aggressive approach to how she's trying to pitch things to bring Americans to their senses on the impact of Trump's 25% tariffs on everything. And she is representing a province that produces a fair amount of energy, oil in particular, that goes south of the border. Ford is taking a slightly more aggressive stance and is threatening to cut off energy supplies going south of the border if the tariffs come in. And you know what? I have to agree with Ford. Some things I agree with him on, a lot of other things I don't. But in this particular case, I think that as a nation right now, and I know there are all kinds of arguments against it and the impact that it can have, if we get out in front and impose tariffs on U.S. goods before Trump has the chance to sign off and impose the 25% tariffs on us, hit them fast, hit them hard, a lightning strike. And it might bring some sense to some of the governors who may be on the fence and others within the Trump administration who may have some kind of hope of influence on Trump. But I don't think Trump is playing us right now like a little political animal. He's playing with us, toying with us. He's toying with us like we are a weakened animal. And right now, we are not getting the leadership at the federal level. And it took a major step back on Monday. We have another comment coming in. Let's see now. We can get that up. Yeah. From Hercules. Oh, you're 100% right, Gary. 47 is going to play Trudeau like a rag doll. Yeah. Of course, from referring to Donald Trump as 47th President of the United States. He's now affectionately known as 45 and 47. I think he even has that on one of his hats. Thank you, Herc, for the comment. I appreciate the feedback. So there are a number of things at play here, and as I say, I firmly believe that the sooner we have an election, the better. And the sooner that we get a government in place with at least either a slim majority, or if we do end up with another minority government, at least the parties involved join together and unite to take on this threat from Trump. And the tariffs, that's just the beginning. That is just the beginning. If he's already claiming victory on the border with the, as I say, the proposals that we've put forth, watch when he puts the tariffs on, and then watch whatever comes next. Because if we react in a very weak manner, and we still are hobbling along on a minority government that's being propped up by the New Democrats, and there is another leader, which I cannot believe this guy, that he's still not committing right now to bringing down the Trudeau government. Now, his House leader is indicating that sometime in January or February that they will pull the plug and go. But why did you wait so long? Why? You know, the House has gone into the Christmas break. They're not back until January 27th, I believe it was, so a week after Trump's inauguration. Why did the NDP wait so long? Why did Singh hang on so long? And even the clip that I played earlier, he was just dancing. He had no solid answer as to how or why he was doing what he was doing. There was nothing solid. He just danced. He was like a fish out of water in a lot of ways. And what he's doing to the NDP is exactly what Trudeau is doing to the Liberals, only Singh's doing it on a smaller scale. But he has not helped the New Democratic Party at the federal level, especially over the last couple of months, even though he'll try to claim a victory with dental care and a couple of the other programs that have been brought in. That all pales, especially if we are hit hard with those 25% tariffs, which a lot of economists are suggesting will throw us into a deep recession in this country. What is Singh thinking, and what in hell is Trudeau thinking? How much of an ego do you have to be carrying on like this? Just totally unbelievable. So let's move on to what could be the government in waiting, the Conservatives. Certainly when you look at the polls, the support is there, no doubt about it. The Conservatives will roll across the country and form a majority government. A lot of people still are having some problems with Pierre Poilievre. I believe that he now needs, this is his election to lose, and I believe now that he needs to back off the cutesy sort of approach, glitzy approach that he has been taking with the, the slogans, the nicknames, the one-liners, axe the tax. That was okay months ago, although it wore thin very quickly, at least for me, and I'm sure for a few other people along the way as well. It wore thin. So now, on Monday, yes, he was caught off guard by the events on Monday morning. He took time, though, to pull his reaction together, and I thought he was rather somewhat subdued, for sure, in his initial response. And the way, though, that he put the pitch out to grassroots Liberals to come on board, I thought was well done. And the way that he brought it across was well done. He could have left the latest slogan, "Bring it on home," off that speech altogether, as he could have with the clip of the speech we're going to play. Because later in the day, yesterday, he was sounding even more prime ministerial in the Commons and gave what some people are saying probably was one of his best speeches ever.
Met another guy at the Labrat Brewery a few days ago, and you can watch the video of me talking with him. He walked up to me and he said, "I have 3 jobs and I can't make it. We're renting. We have no hope. We've given up on ever owning a home. We're renting. We can barely make it." And he said to me, "I feel ashamed when I talk to my kids because they ask me why I'm never around and why we can never have a house. And I feel like a failure." But he didn't fail. He has been failed. That's right. He has been robbed of the promise of Canada. It was a very simple promise that if you worked hard, you got a good life. Now, it wasn't fancy or extravagant, but you got a house with a yard where you could have kids playing safely. And you could have a nice dog that you could afford to feed along with the kids. And your kids could play safely in the streets. That was the promise. Now, politicians break promises all the time. But you know what was bad about this promise? This promise didn't belong to this prime minister. It wasn't his promise to break.
Yep.
It belonged to all of us. And our purpose is to bring home that promise for that young man, that young father, and that older female worker so that they can once again take back control of their lives, live in a safe country where their hard work earns them a good wage, where their rent and their food is affordable, and where when they go to bed at night, they know that they will be safe throughout their sleep and that they will have their car in their driveway in the morning. A country where people are proud again to fly the flag, where they know the government is a servant and not a master, where they understand that every day the Commons, this place, works for the common people, not for the ego of one man desperate to cling on to his job. We must remember that we are servants in this place. We have a job to do on behalf of the people who sent us here. Our personal dramas are not important. The dramas that should seize all of our concern and imagination are the daily dramas of the working women and men that build this country. We are in it for them. We're going to give them back control of their lives in the freest country on earth, Canada. Let's bring it home.
Hey! Come on, get up, lad.
Pierre, drop the "let's bring it home." The last 2 or 3 minutes of your speech, phenomenal. Phenomenal. You sounded like a prime minister in waiting, that you were ready to take over the reins of government when it was handed to you by the electorate. Where are his advisors? You had people, and I was watching on some of the social media platforms and even some of the YouTubers who do quick hits on various political issues. But you had them eating out of your hand with those last couple of minutes of that speech. That's probably one of the best I've heard in some time in the Commons. This is your election to lose, and just because you have a 21% lead, it only takes 1 or 2 missteps along the way, and that can tank very quickly, especially if you have someone new on the other side that may be starting to appeal to voters. You have to earn the trust. And if you're speaking like this, you will build that trust. You have to speak directly to Canadians and do so again in that tone, that prime ministerial tone, to show that you are a leader, that you are a prime minister in waiting, and when you step in, you're going to steer the ship in the right direction. All you have to do now is step back slightly and let the Trudeau Liberals continue to self-destruct. But for God's sakes, stop with the slogans. That's not very prime ministerial. And it was okay initially to get things rolling and get momentum building. But now, talk to me. Talk to me as the leader of my country. And let me see your leadership and build my trust. Let me build my trust for you to be a prime minister I can count on and that I can back. But again, it's so very simple. It's your election to lose now. And I guess for that, and I don't know, $5, you can drive on the highway, but that's my advice, sitting back and watching it and having conversations with some other people in various situations from time to time. That is the biggest thing. Even tonight I heard somebody on one of the panels at dinner time say that some Liberals are having a real problem. They can't support the party while Trudeau is at the helm. And they don't really know or trust Poilievre at this point. And the NDP, well, they're out of the game altogether anyway. But he made that pitch the other day to the grassroots Liberals, and I thought it was well put together and well communicated. But he has to keep at that and renewing that commitment. Come aboard. I'm here. I'm a leader. I'm ready to take control. Our government is ready to take control and take the country in a different direction. And you hear barbs being thrown at Poilievre and the Conservatives about, they'll cut. And guess what? There's no doubt that they're going to have to cut. Because you need to get the books back in order. And go back to when Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, his finance minister, they had to cut and slash to get the books back in order. And they did, and started to move forward. But you know what it is? It's like Buckley's cough syrup. It doesn't taste great, but it works. It helps. And certainly we need somebody with a certain tone and a strong government behind him or her to deal with Trump over the next 4 years. Because just watching what's been happening over the last 2 months and going into Inauguration Day, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty for Canada. It's not going to be pretty for Mexico. It's not going to be pretty for people in the U.S. He keeps talking about tariffs, so you're not going to have to pay anything for the tariffs. Well, who do you think is going to pay for them? If a company, yes, the company may pay directly, but that cost is going to be passed along to their customers. There's no other way around it. It's the same with if we cut off oil flows to the U.S. It's estimated that gasoline prices will jump by at least $1 a gallon, at least. If Doug Ford cuts off energy, going to Michigan and a couple of other states in that area, in the middle of winter or in the middle of summer, they're going to have blackouts or rolling brownouts, whatever the latest phrase is. The people are going to suffer. So, and the more I see different things on social media and YouTube, Americans are really starting to open their eyes and their ears, and they're beginning to realize that, wait a minute, this is not quite what we heard during the campaign. And that this possibility or these possibilities are becoming very, very real at the moment. And they're beginning to worry. And again, that's why we need a strong federal government right now to be hammering this home even more at the federal level. The premiers, they're doing their best. And I really like the approach that Ford and to a lesser degree. I think she could be a little tougher. Danielle Smith is taking. And I'll tell you something. Listening to Danielle Smith over the last month or so, I'm becoming more impressed with her every day. Every day. And when you look at a lot of things in Alberta, I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine and a former work colleague on Sunday who moved from New Brunswick to Alberta. And he said, my impression of Danielle Smith is she was something like Frank McKenna was when Frank McKenna was Premier of New Brunswick. He'd try something. If it worked, okay, they kept building on it and away it'd go. If it didn't, they'd either axe it or find another way to try and make it work. But McKenna did go out on the limb on more than one occasion with different approaches, new ideas, as far as delivery of programs and everything were concerned. And as we said, some of them worked, some of them didn't. Some of them ended up coming out with something that was doable, that made the program, the delivery of the program, the impact of the program better than what it was. So it was a step forward. I don't know, I'm thinking at some point you might see Danielle Smith playing or becoming more involved at the federal level. And I don't think that'd be a bad thing, personally, based on what I'm seeing over the last few months, really paying attention to things that are happening in Alberta right now and the way she's approaching this whole Trump tariff threat. So with that, it's about time to put a wrap on the show. Now, we started back on September the 4th and have been doing a show each week since. And our YouTube channel is growing, and really, we're just some people sitting around, and we used to have coffee and talk about things. And we decided, why not put it out there and see if we can foster a wider audience to engage with us and give us their opinions and get some feedback and have some fun. And we're going to continue to do that. And I want to thank everyone who, over the last number of months, have popped in, watched some of the show, all of the show, left a comment here or there. We really appreciate it. We've shown some growth spurts in the last couple of weeks in particular, and that makes us feel pretty good. And hopefully, as we get more comfortable, and tonight was the first night where I was actually operating solo like this. So yeah, there were a few little glitches as far as me being a little slow on some of the buttons. But it's fun. We enjoy it, and hopefully you are enjoying it. And if you are, please give us a like and subscribe, and also share our channel and any of the shows that you see that you like. Please share them with people and help us to grow the channel. And we really do want to encourage, we had some comments tonight, and we really do want to encourage people to get involved with your comments as well. And Herc, thank you very much for that. I appreciate your comment. Thank you. So with that, it's a wrap, and we are going to say good night for 2020. This is, the last show of 2024. And I want to wish everyone a happy holiday period. Night Talk returns on January the 8th from Montreal. Good night.